Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This is Radhika here again, and this video is going to be about victimhood after narcissistic abuse and how to let go of it. So, this video is not for the people who are just currently finding out about narcissism. It's for people who have already been through the first stages of finding out about narcissism, watching a lot of videos on it, being angry for a while, and then after that, after all of that is said and done, who decide, okay, now I want to move on from this phase of my life where I found out about all these things, and now I want to actually become empowered, and I want to build a good life for myself, free of this narcissistic toxic people, and where I step into my power and just kind of live the life, ideal life that I want to live. So this is for those people, who are at that stage and who keep going back to the victim mentality. So that's what I meant by victimhood when I made the latest post that I posted on my community tab. And I understand that it might have triggered some people. So when it triggers you, when anything in life triggers you, whoever says it, there's something there. So you should kind of observe that carefully. Like, why is this thing triggering me? So it will help you if you do that. So I'm just going to kind of explain my own experience of victimhood, and how I kind of came out of it, and it's ongoing, right? So every now and then again you will feel like a victim whenever you come across an unfair situation or some injustice that is happening in your life, or just something from the past comes up again. But what happens is, with time, you might be in that victim mode for like 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes you're like, okay, I'm out of it now, and now again I feel empowered and in my power, and I want to make my life better. So what happens is, with time, as time progresses and as you make a decision to get out of victimhood, this time that you stay in this victim mode will be really short. So I don't know if there's anyone who never feels like a victim. I don't have that statistic, but what I can tell you from my own experience is that this clinging to victimhood will become lesser and lesser. Okay, and it is a clinging, and that's why I'm saying this is for people who are at a certain level. After a certain level, it does become clinging to victimhood, because now you have done all your study, so when you, in the beginning, you feel like a victim, it is something that you need to notice, because you are feeling like a victim because you have to find out about some things, and at that point, yes, you are a victim. But what I'm saying is, just putting that tag on yourself that, I am a victim, that's something that you can get out of, and it will help you if you kind of get out of that. So in my story, like, I just wanted to tell you that I was also in that phase where I had learned about narcissism, I had decided it's not helping me, I had decided to move on, etc. But there are always some days where you kind of go back to the old self, old version of yourself, where you start feeling like a victim. Something, maybe something small happens in the day which makes you feel like, oh, that was kind of unfair. And what happens is, when that thing happens, it triggers your brain, and your ego suddenly attaches to that story, and it will start spinning a story of victimhood. So maybe someone in the grocery store was a little rude to you, they were having a bad day and they said something to you. Now, because they have put that bad energy on you, your ego will take that, as a bait, and it will spin the story. Oh yeah, you were also abused by this narcissistic person, and they said this to you and that to you, and you were always treated unfairly, and the always word comes up, in the ego, that always this happens, always. And that's a very dangerous word. When you use words like always and never, it is your ego talking. So you have to kind of understand that life is always flowing in different directions. So there is nothing which is very fixed in life. If you have reached that fixed level, you are already like pretty much enlightened. That level is beyond this 3D reality. So this always thing is the ego's way of keeping you trapped in something. So when your internal talk starts saying that always you are the victim, always people are treating you like this, always everyone is bullying you, whatever, whatever that talk is, that internal talk that starts, you have to realize it's your ego that is now pushing you into victimhood. So now it's not the other people who are pushing you, now it's you who's pushing you into victimhood. So not you, but your ego, because that's how the ego operates. So you have to understand the ego, how it operates, and it's not your enemy. It's like a child, it doesn't know any better. So you have to kind of parent your ego and tell your ego that what you're doing is not healthy for you. You have to understand that sometimes life is going to be unfair, but that doesn't always make you the victim. So you kind of have to parent your ego in order to move it to a more empowered state. And then of course your ego will help you as well. So ego is like a double edged sword. If you let it go out of hand, it will cut you. And if you really know how to wield your sword, you will be able to use it for your defense always. So make friends with your ego and kind of make your ego a healthy one, not an unhealthy ego, but a healthy, organic, good ego which is helping you live in this 3D reality. So yeah, so in my story I was at that phase, and something triggered me one day, and I was talking to a friend of mine who is younger than me. She was not married, she has not been through narcissistic abuse, but she's just an old soul. And we connected at a very good level, and we really like talking to each other. So I was telling her that I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, that day, and I was telling her that now I can't post on social media, and I want to put pictures, and I want to do this. And it was my ego talking to her. And this is not me usually. I don't like complain so much or this and that, but we all go to that phase where we complain, and that's okay. That's a part of us. So I went into this phase of like complaining and feeling sorry for myself and this and that, and just like venting it out to her. And she is like pretty direct and very like she doesn't sugarcoat so many things. So she just told me that you know what, I feel like you have just gotten attached to like feeling sorry for yourself. And just she told me like, what is this posting things on Facebook that doesn't mean much? And then she was like, just get out of your ego a little bit, and try to have some more what was she saying, wisdom or insight or something like that. She used some words. So I obviously, like, when I was in that ego, like in the victim mode, I got hurt by what she said. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay, thanks, whatever, okay. And then I changed the topic, and then basically for that day I was done chatting with her, because I was like, like my ego was suddenly like, she doesn't get it, she hasn't been through this, and she's not even married, what does she know my life, and she doesn't have a kid, and things like that. So immediately my ego started blaming everything on her, that it's her fault that she said that. And um so anyways, I didn't like stop talking to her forever, because obviously I knew that something, she said something that was important, but at that time I didn't understand it, and I'm still friends with her. But at that point, of course, my ego told me that stop talking to this person, now they are kind of hurting you. So that's what happens when we become overly sensitive, um, especially with this victimhood. That's when it, being overly sensitive is not a bad thing. First of all, it's a great thing, because that's what your power is as an empathetic person. But you need to realize when your ego is using your overly sensitive nature against you, to pull you down into victimhood, into depression, into feeling sorry. So you have to see your ego does that too. It uses your extreme sensitivity to be against you sometimes, to keep you trapped in the ego's trap. So yeah, so I actually stopped talking to her, but after a few days I was again alone, like I was doing some of my work or something like that, and I again noticed my mind going into a victim state. Some thought came up, like some thought of someone criticizing me, or something bad happening or something like that. And again my mind went into the victim mode. So I was actually observing my mind at that point, and I thought, like, no one is even talking to me right now. I'm just all alone, and I am still going into this victim mode. So this is definitely something that my mind is doing to me. No one else is there right now. So my mind is going back into the past. It's pulling out an event that is again pushing me into that victim mode. And nothing in my life is wrong currently. I'm alone. I can have a nice sip of water, I can do my work, I can be at peace. But no, my mind wants to take me back to being a victim, because that's what gives a part of my ego its identity, the victim ego part. And that's when I actually realized that what my friend was saying was true, even though she might have said it very cuttingly and very in a straightforward manner. What she was saying was true. A part of me was pushing me into this victimhood, because according to her, she saw that you can choose to be another way, but you are choosing to be a victim. And that's when I actually realized that what she was saying, although it was pretty harsh, it was the truth. And if I actually saw the truth in that, it wasn't helping her, it was helping me. So that's when, like, sometimes you will talk to people, or you will encounter people in life who will give you some information, and it might really trigger you, and it might feel very cutting and sharp and harsh. But they are actually not doing it for their benefit. They are just observing something, and they are telling you what they are observing. Now, I'm not talking about narcissists. She is not a narcissistic person. She's a very simple, normal, balanced human being. So what she saw in me, she told me, very, she was not a coach. A coach, like, for me, I cannot do that when I'm talking to clients. And even when I notice that in clients, I will kind of push them towards self love, because ultimately self love will teach you this to get out of victimhood. But she was not a coach, so she directly told me what she saw in me. So that's what happens. Sometimes people will tell you something which will seem very harsh, but it might actually help you in the long time. And we see this because, a lot of times in movies and, things like that, and just generally, suffering has been very glorified. And I think it is glorified a little bit because good things come out of suffering. Like, religions come out of suffering. Or, I mean, I'm not saying religions are good thing. I mean, they are, most religions have been perverted by humans. But when they came out, when they were in, like, when the teachings were invented, they came out of suffering, and they were a good thing at that point. Art comes out of suffering. Your own inner strength comes out of suffering. Empowerment, awakenings, realizations, so many things come out of suffering. And that's why that's why we see that suffering is a little bit glorified in movies and novels and magazines and stuff like that. But you have to realize that these good things come out only after a person gives up suffering and learns a way to move away from suffering and into empowerment, into a never ending state of happiness, empowerment, and, a willingness to move forward in a positive way. So yeah, maybe that's why suffering is a little bit glorified in today's world. And that's what the ego grabs onto, that glorification, that feeling good in self pity. It gives you a different kind of feeling. You must have felt it when you are in that state. It gives you some sort of a joy, just being in that self pity. And, oh, I'm such a victim, and, I have suffered through so much. It gives you some kind of a heroic glory. but it's very short lived. It's made up by the ego. It won't stay for too long. It'll push you into anger and depression if you keep on doing that for a long time. So yeah, with the full moon that is coming up on May 18th, and I don't know, in my country it's on May 18th. I don't know when it is in your country. So full moons are a good time to give up on any unhealthy patterns, or things that you notice in yourself which you want to release. So if you do see this feeling of victimhood, first of all, accept it. We all have it. It's nothing to be ashamed about. We all have been through it. Any empowered person you see, they have been through victimhood. That's a given. Because you can empower yourself only after you have been feeling like a victim. That's where the power comes back from. So yeah, so don't feel bad, and if you want to use this full moon as a good time to release this victimhood, then do so. Do like a small ritual, or you can write it on a piece of paper. I want to release so and so, whatever qualities you don't want in your being anymore, or you want to integrate in your being and don't want them to be glorified. So you can do that, and yeah, and you can then burn that piece of paper in the full moonlight, if you can do that. But be safe, don't burn other things. So if you're burning and doing anything with fire, you have to be safe first. So yeah, so just understand that victimhood is a part of the journey, and try not to make it the destination, because it's not. The destination is empowerment, so keep going in that direction. So yeah, that was this video, and as always, thank you for watching this, and please do like, share and subscribe, and comment if this is helpful to you, useful to you, if you have any tips. And as always, I wish you all a lot of love and a lot of light. Thank you. Bye.